Hello and welcome to our special broadcast. We're just a day away from the World Food India Summit, an event that is aimed at positioning India as the food capital of the world. And this is taking place, importantly, against the backdrop of acute agricultural crisis in large parts of India. If the government's ambition of doubling farmer income has to become a reality, we will need a lot more foreign investments to come in, companies that can handhold our farmers to ensure that they get the best out of the crops they grow. In fact, an important study recently said that the amount of food the United Kingdom consumes in a year is almost the amount of food that we waste thanks to a lack of storage facilities. The government wants a lot of these companies to come and strengthen the back end. Just a few days ago, I caught up with the food processing minister herself, Harsimrat Kaur Badal, on what she was hoping from this event. Take a look.
What I'm hoping for is we're going to bring in world-class technology into the food processing sector. And I'm pretty sure about that. That's going to happen. It's going to come. Number two, I'm hoping that India is going to become a major source, a major hub for sourcing. Number three, I feel huge amount of foreign direct investment is going to come into this sector, which is suddenly going to push this sector and, really exponentially explode it to impacting farmers in a very positive way, because today the farmer can only sell his produce. He's forced to sell his produce to the mandi because neither can he store it, neither can he save it. So he is distressed that no matter what price he is getting, he has to sell it because otherwise it rots and he gets nothing. So right from impacting the farmer, where there will be now facilities at his doorstep for preservation, for storage, as well as having an industry close by that if he doesn't like the price he's getting at the market, he can sell it to the industry, because the industry's growth is dependent on what the farmer produces and gives to him. Right. So I look at the farmer having two alternatives: to sell at the mandi as well as to sell at the processor level, which enhances his value and uplifts the farmer. I look at this industry being one of the largest generators of employment. So with $10 billion, hopefully 3 times that amount coming, getting grounded, crores of youths getting jobs. I look at food wastages in our country, which are humongous, coming down to levels which Western countries have already managed to control it to. And therefore, enough food, nobody to sleep hungry, and no spikes in the prices where everybody's kitchen budget goes haywire and governments are in tears as well as people. So I'm looking at it impacting the country in many ways than one.
Well, that's the word coming from Union Food Processing Minister Harsimrat Kaur Badal, saying that the sector has already received an investment commitment of close to $10 billion, and this number could grow substantially higher, all thanks to World Food India. Meanwhile, India's food regulator is working on a series of initiatives to improve the kind of business environment in the country and also ease the kind of regulatory framework. In fact, they did launch a series of IT initiatives and a food portal, which is the Food Regulatory Portal. In fact, I caught up with the FSSAI chairperson, Ashish Bahuguna, and let's listen into what he had to say.
The primary message we are trying to give to investors is that India has huge potential in setting up of food businesses, and we as regulators in the food sector in India would be happy to ease the introduction of new food businesses into India by guiding all new entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs on the action they need to take to set up base in this country.
There are a lot of initiatives with regards to new frameworks for testing laboratories as well as state-level changes. But one very important change that I see at this point in time is the introduction of the import manual for a lot of investors and international companies. How do you see that changing the paradigm of food business in India?
No, the import manual is essentially a compilation of all our regulations that impact on imports. Earlier, these were spread across various different kind of regulations, and it was for the importer to kind of cull them out from each of those regulations. So it was an onerous task, especially for a person who was new to the business or didn't have much of a scientific background. Now, what we have done is to put them all in one place so that each person knows exactly what he's required to do. And if the importer fulfills all the conditions that are stipulated in the import manual, then all the clearances will be accorded to him online electronically without ever having to visit our office or any offices in the country.
One very historic step taken by the FSSAI was the abolishment of product approval process. Going forward, what are the other ways by which you all will ease regulations and clear bottlenecks for businesses operating in the country?
No, let me first clarify. We have not abolished any approval process for products. What we have done is to set in place standards, both horizontal and vertical, for a large number of products and product categories. There would still be some products which are outside the ambit of those standards, which would require specific approvals from us. We have actually put in place specific regulations for such products as well, which will be granted approvals, or a decision would be taken on them within a time-bound manner. So the idea being that everybody knows exactly the time limitations under which to operate within the food safety and framework in the country.
Which other initiatives or guidelines will you all be issuing so that it will ease business and do away with certain regulations which are perhaps not needed going forward?
No, I don't think we can eliminate regulations. What we are trying to do is to make the regulations simple and easy for any new entrepreneur to understand. The idea is that the regulation should not inhibit or pose an obstacle to new businesses. The idea is that the entrepreneur should know of what the safety parameters within all processes are like.
How much would you like to increase the kind of staff in terms of food inspectors? Also, you had mentioned about revamping state as well as central laboratories going forward. So what would be the kind of investment that would go in for all these measures?
You see, it would be unfair to put a number on it, because our demands can be limitless given the size of our country. Right now, we are working in FSSAI with a staff of around about 350. We certainly require more. But what we are trying to do is to co-opt into the regulatory system our sister organizations. For instance, for imports, we have co-opted the officers of the Customs Department. So likewise, we would like to work in cooperation with not only our sister departments, but also with the industry associations, the consumer organizations, so that the need for manpower is reduced. We are also trying to use electronic systems, the digital systems, as much as possible, so as to improve efficiency, effectiveness, and timeliness of our operations, and also probably to impart greater transparency in what we do. So certainly states, of course, the implementation and the implementation framework in states is patchy. Some states are doing a great job. They have well entrenched regulatory systems. Some others are not so well endowed. So it will be our endeavor to reach out to the states and reach out to the decision makers of the state to persuade them to increase the number of people at the disposal of the Food Safety Commissioner's own in those states.
I can't let you go without asking you about FDI in food retail. 100% is what the government has approved as of now. But of course, while we've seen proposals for investment coming in, there is still some degree of compliances, some degree of registrations that need to be happening from the FSSAI end. So I wanted to understand from your perspective, have you been approached by companies like Amazon, etc.? Because I believe that's something that they need to give before they can really roll out operations.
You see, like I said, the only thing that is required for any person, whether it's an overseas investor or a domestic investor, is to comply with our regulations. And we generally approach this subject on a self-compliance basis. So as long as the investor certifies that he is going to produce goods which are in accordance with the parameters of safety that have been stipulated in our regulations, he can register himself electronically. So he doesn't even need to get in touch with us. So, I would not like to mention specific names, but there are companies all the time which are coming in and registering themselves, and they are starting food businesses in India.
Just one last question with regards to the overall CAG audit that was happening at the FSSAI with regards to how standardization, how procedures were followed. What's the update on that? Has that been completed and has a result been derived from that?
No, the audit has been completed. The CAG had sent us a draft report which we have examined and sent back to them with our responses. And the final audit report is yet to come to us.
With that, let's slip into a very short break. On the other side, we bring you the top managements of Cargill Foods and Patanjali Ayurveda.